All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the MRC Town Hall. I hope most of you know at this point, but my name is Ray Whitaker. I'm the CEO of the organization here at Mission Roll Call. And as always, we have Jim Whaley here, our CEO of the organization. Jim, how are you? How are the bees? How are things in life going?
Going great. Bees are doing wonderful. In fact, I checked them this past weekend. I normally just kind of live and let live when it comes to bees, but I have, for everybody out there, been beekeeping for a number of years. Started with my daughter doing it, and I've been doing it for about, 6-7 years now. So I've had my share of coming to meetings looking like the Elephant Man, big bumps and, just bloated from the bees stinging me, but it's going great. I enjoy it. It's very therapeutic. And I think I shared with you, Ray, this whole thing that's going on right now with bees and people putting bees like in little sheds. And of course, the bees aren't in the shed, but you can sleep on top of the beehives. I know that probably sounds scary.
Is it like the gas chamber, though? The bees are in the shed and it's like a gas chamber. You go
No,
in.
It's not like they're stinging you and stuff. No, I mean, you just go and the humming and the scents and the buzz of the bees at a certain frequency has been found out to relieve a lot of tension, a lot of post-traumatic stress, and it's being used more and more. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that, but it could be fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, anything that helps. I mean, I think, I love dogs. I love woodworking.
Yeah.
So these are all things that help in my life.
Yeah. So everyone needs to find their thing that gets them away from the day-to-day grind or the things that stress them out.
Absolutely. Okay. So just some admin notes for everybody watching today. We do these monthly. If you don't know, and listen, if you want them more than monthly, all you got to do is reply, put a comment there and let us know that you want it more monthly. But right now we got it monthly. Next one of these will be September 24th at 1 p.m. So basically same location that you're watching it now, whatever social media platform you're on, it'll be the exact same place at the same time. If you have a question, anytime when we're talking, please ask. Today's going to be a really juicy conversation because we're going to be talking about veteran homelessness. So this is one of those areas, you veterans and your families, you're the ones that asked us to make this a priority, and Jim, as him and I talk about all the time, that's what we did. We made it a priority and we got a lot to talk about today. And some of it is going to be a little bit alarming for those that are here and watching, but that's what you ask us to do. We do have a survey up right now. So talking about you asking us to focus on homelessness, if you're in chat, we're going to have the team. They're going to post out the link for the survey for you. We need you to go take this survey for the 2026 priorities for Mission Roll Call. Listen, we work for you. Okay, that's our responsibility, right? And that's what Jim makes me do. Like he tells me if I don't do it, then I don't have a job anymore. I'm just kidding. That's not what he says. But we do this for you. So the only way we can do for you is that you step forward and give us your voice, right? And this also means share it. Share it with a friend. Share it with your family. Okay, they're just as impacted with your service and the things you do, but we need to get the numbers up right now. I think we're close to 1,000. We want to be closer to 3,000 to 5,000 total veterans that have voted on this. So please, if you get a little bit of time, go ahead and do that. And as always, follow us. Okay, like the best way to get information, us talk about the things that we have, is for you guys to talk a little bit about these things. So Jim, today we've got a good one. I think the first thing, though, we got to get into before we get into all of that, we want to talk a little bit about the poll results from last month, right? These surveys and these polls that we're running, how beneficial these things are for us as an organization to gauge, veterans and their families, right? To make sure that that we're doing our part. So I'm really interested from your side. I think the team will go ahead and pull up the survey results from last month, and we can kind of look through some. It's a sneak peek at these, by the way. I know, Jim, we haven't given you the final version of this yet so that you guys can share it with the board and others. Yeah. But I would love to just kind of talk about some of these poll results. But if you could kind of give an overview of why these are so important just from an organizational perspective.
Yeah. There's a lot of challenges out there, a lot of decisions that need to be made by folks in DC, elected officials and people at the VA on important subjects. And unless you know what veterans want and what veterans feel are the most important, you're kind of feeling your way through the dark, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to have the best information, the most accurate information possible, making the decisions. We want that in our life, right? None of us want to make financial decisions or decisions on any number of subjects if we don't have as many of the facts as possible. And some of these issues are very complex and regional. So it's helpful to get the pulse of what veterans and their families are thinking and what they hold more important, so that we can share that not only with elected officials, but the general American public. Because at the end of the day, it's very important for them to understand as well. So I think these polls, they're vital. And the VA secretary, as well as senators and congressmen, have told me personally that they value this. And the Rich Star Act, of course, will let you see that. It allows combat disabled veterans who were medically retired, of course, before reaching the traditional 20 years of retirement, to receive both military retirement and the VA retirement. That's important.
And this is something, Jim, that's been this act. This is something that's been in this process for a really long time. And I would,
oh yeah.
And I bring that up because this is something I didn't know. Right. And I think that because
right.
we're in this space and we don't realize that something like this, that does go through this legislative process or bill process is not something that just magically happens. And even when it gets approved and it goes through that approval process and it's there, that doesn't mean that it stays forever. There's still a process where it comes back. I would love for you to just kind of talk about that associated with this act, because that would be good to understand.
Yeah, this has been talked about for decades. And decades. So at least over 20 years, in some shape or form, this policy, this process to make sure, since the Vietnam War, and it was probably talked about, but we don't know about it during the Korean War, to make sure veterans are getting the access and making sure they're getting all the benefits that they deserve, was being addressed. And what happens is sometimes this goes all the way up to Congress and Senate. We put together a bill, and then the bill gets tabled, and then it doesn't happen, or then it's a temporary fix, so it's only for a year, and then a new Senate or Congress comes in, and then it gets moved back. And so until it becomes law and written in, then it really is enacted upon. And there's a number of things that are in this, I would say, almost the outer rings of Dante's Inferno of things, where you're kind of going through hell trying to get these things fixed. This would be this case. And so you can see by the numbers, over 80%, 84%. Is it say 84? I don't have my glasses.
Yeah.
84%. Thanks.
Yeah.
Is in strong support of this. So vast majority, it would seem like a no-brainer, but you need to have these numbers and have these polls so that you can show it to not only elected officials, but their staff, who are actually the folks that are actually doing the hard work of putting this together in legislation and getting the right verbiage in there. So that's why this is so important. It's also important to make sure we share this information with the media and people that are covering these subjects, and make sure they see that these stats are what they are, because otherwise there's no way for them to do it. No one's doing polling and surveys like we are.
That's right.
You may have an organization that does a poll occasionally on something that is interest to them, but we're doing polls and surveys that are interest to veterans and their families on current issues that are on the docket for important decisions. And that's why this is so important. It's just not taking a survey, what's your favorite dessert? These are important topics that are making an impact, not only for you. All of us that served in the military always tried to make the organization we're in a little bit better for the next guy or gal that was taking over for us. This is going to affect our children and their children. So it's important for us to take these polls, and these numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be, and you hit it on the head. And for those that are listening, like all of you that are out there and whatever platform you're on, and listen, it's not just about you, it's about the others. There is a difference between one person answering a poll and thousands, right? And the goal here for these polls and surveys is that we're getting those thousands. We're not trying to speak on your behalf. It's not what MRC, Jim, and I know we repetitively say this because I have not yet seen this take off appropriately. I see a lot of complaints from the veteran community on things that they need and things that they want.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by the numbers as well. I think these are important topics. It only takes 5-10 minutes to do a poll, for God's sakes. Do it.
Yeah.
Send it to your buddy, send it to your family members so they do it. And that's the only way. It's like voting, right? I mean, if you're going to complain about the local legislature or your senator, well, if you didn't vote, you really don't have a voice, right? And so this is the same thing. And the good thing with these polls and what we're doing is we're not trying to adjust it to how we feel or to adjust it to what we think the VA wants to hear or maybe what a senator wants to hear. This is pure topics, pure information, true information, timely information that we're sharing. And so, and that's our North Star. It's not about what we think, it's about what you think.
That's right. Well, yeah. And if we don't share theirs, right? Like if you don't do that, somebody's going to speak on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
So you have to make the choice, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So this is an important act. Even if you're not one of those individuals that have been injured in combat and receiving pay and then, not get your retirement pay on top of it. And that's just kind of ridiculous. So we need to make sure this gets through, and having these type of numbers is very, very important for us to share with Congress, share with Senate, but also to share with other organizations.
That's right.
So that they understand it as well. So, I mean, we have 18 million plus veterans in our country right now. We're reaching about 7.5 million through all of our platforms. That's huge. That doesn't mean they're all taking polls. Doesn't mean that we have all their data or information. That's not important to us. What's important is we share their voice, and that's a sizable voting block. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of votes, and that's going to garner a lot of attention to those that need votes to continue their job and to continue the path that they're on. So it's important that we take time and take these polls, share it with others to take those polls. And I can't underscore that enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we get into what I call the meat and potatoes. So I think for everybody that's watching today, I hope we get some really good questions from you folks on what this is.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing that, Jim, for you and I remember showing up into this and this idea of, you and I both been in multiple nonprofits prior to this.
Yeah.
It is selfish in some ways, right? Because this work is, it's meaningful. It means something. So selfishly, I do it because I love to do it because it's meaningful, right? Coming into this organization, I was a little bit unwary and didn't really understand the whys. And we did the gap analysis and we looked at the organization, tried to figure out what it was. And I remember the very first thing I kind of came into was America Warriors Partnership when they were going through the suicide numbers. And this is one of the poll questions we asked not too long ago, but we were talking about like the number, right? And everywhere you look, there's like 22. And then when I showed up here, I saw something that wasn't 22. Right. I saw something the first time it said 44 and I'm like, what? And then I started looking around and I go, holy crap. Like this number has changed multiple times. What I'm leading the conversation into is that sent us down a rabbit hole. Not only me and you, but the entire team of, okay, well, if that number's off, then we started talking about homelessness and we're talking to, Mighty Hero Homes and some of these other organizations that are at the local level. And we're asking the numbers and we're talking to the government, we're the HUD and all these people, and we're getting all these different numbers. One day it's 37,000. One day it's 32,000. One day it's 31,000. And I remember you and I having a conversation and I'm like, Jim, what's the number? Man, like how can you fix something that you don't even know what the problem is? And this doesn't just go for homelessness. This is access to care. This is the length of appointments, right? One veteran says it takes them 9 months. The other veteran takes them 2 months. That takes me into the question to you. From that, we've now kind of adjusted to one of the things we're going to be focusing on, which is kind of that investigative journalism and research. And I would love for you to talk about what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to show something off to the folks watching.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. I mean, and let's just focus on the homelessness piece. The number that's been bantered around is 33,000. I will tell you from what we're learning through in-depth analysis, by talking to people, by doing surveys, by talking to organizations on the ground, that is really the low number. So that would be the basement, right? The floor of that number. The ceiling, the roof, that number, we don't really know, but it's much higher than 33,000. And the reason for that is that we don't have accurate data across the country. So how do you fix a problem? again, if you don't know the extent of the problem, very difficult. And so that's why we embarked on this. The other reason we embarked on it is in the beginning of the year, we asked all of you what should be our priorities. So that's very different than any other veteran support organization that has on their website, these are our priorities. Our priorities are exactly the priorities you told us the priorities are.
Yeah.
So homelessness is one of those priorities. We all understand why that's a priority. It's because it's embarrassment to our country. Not only that, it's adversely affecting the lives of our brothers and sisters. And so we need to get a handle on it. And there's no reason why that number should be anything higher than 0. If we're being supportive and imaginative. Listen, there's not any complex problems Americans can't solve, right? We can do it if we focus on it. But first we have to get educated on it and know the parameters of the problem that we're facing, and then identify that, come up with some solutions, and then resource it, and then go after it, and then adjust as necessary. So this number is not accurate, and I'll tell you why we think it's not accurate, 33,000. One is it's a time and point type of survey. So that means we pick one day, not mission roll call, the country picks one day to take a look across the country of who's homeless. So basically people walking in cities, walking in towns, counting the amount of homeless in shelters and such, and then figuring out from that which ones are veterans. Well, if we're only measuring it on one given day, already the numbers are going to be lower than you really thought, right? Because that assumes that you're covering all the ground where veterans are in one day, and that's just absurd. That's just not going to happen. The second piece to that is many people don't identify themselves as veterans, or the person doesn't ask the right question. Maybe they're embarrassed telling them they're a veteran.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's but it's not a thought process for you. I mean, think
Right.
for the homeless vet, I'm not like, my past is my past. It's not my
identity.
not my current. So it's not like, you know what I mean?
I'm
like,
homeless.
I think it's,
that's who I am.
yeah, I'm homeless. Like, yeah, help me.
Right.
So anyway, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's another important piece. It's not that they don't want to identify. You're right. Nobody's asking, but like, I'm not thinking about that needs to be the question. And doing stuff here in North Carolina with the homeless veterans, that's something I would continuously get echoed back to me, is like that, right? You can't have a job. If I don't have a house, can't have a house without a job, right? Like it's this dilemma that you constantly have. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, and if you think about that, you know, there's a large percentage of our population, American population, that's, one transmission failure, one flat tire away from insolvency, right? I mean, that kind of impact, financial impact, is going to make them lose their car, not be able to go to work. They lose their job, and now they're basically holding on, and they have no reserve. And so it's just a slippery slope. The old adage there, by the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
It happens, right? I think the other thing specifically about homelessness that's troubling is that you have, different populations within their homeless. So you have
which we're going to show. We're going to show all this, folks, on the page.
So so I mean, from what I've learned, and we're all learning this process, we were far from homelessness experts at this organization, but we're trying to tackle these tough problems. And I think it actually gives us better insights than others, because we're not coming in with a preconceived notion.
That's right.
We assumed the numbers were accurate until we found out they're not accurate.
Yeah.
We assumed a lot of things until it was proven otherwise. And so now we're eyes wide open, and we're looking at this thing holistically and talking to other organizations, experts in the field, both at high level organizations and organizations that are in a town trying to solve these problems. And so I think that gives us some great insights. But what's troubling to me on these numbers is, one, the number's way too high. We know it's higher than it really is reported. In some cases, people are not identifying, or we don't correctly identify them as veterans. If it's a female veteran and they have children, they're not going to identify, or they're going to be reluctant to identify because they don't want to lose their children. Yeah. In some states, if you're living in a tent or a car, you're not considered homeless. Well, I can tell you, if I'm living in my car, I consider myself homeless. I would assume, Ray Whitaker, if you're living in a tent, you would consider yourself homeless. Most people listening to this would do that. And then you have entire states that aren't participating at all. California, which is the highest level of veterans.
Yeah, and we'll show a map. And Jim, I'm going to pull up this page.
Yeah,
But I just
please.
want to get back to that research and investigative part of this, just for the group, so that they understand like the focus
Yeah.
is where we're going as an organization is that what we've heard veterans tell us and their families is like, hey, these priorities are things that we need help with. We're hearing the voices, right? Like, listen, I can't explain this to those that are watching enough. We're reading. I wish we had enough staff to answer everybody's thing. Like that's not what we're not really a service providing. We're a information gathering organization. So we're listening to everything you're putting on Facebook and Instagram and things you're putting on Reddit. Like all of these places, we're pulling it all in. We're speaking to your congressional leaders to find out what are they hearing, right? We're pulling it all together and looking, going, that's an odd issue. Then we put a survey poll together. Then all of a sudden we have a completely different problem. And what I'm seeing, Jim, and maybe you see something different. I see an education problem. I'm the first one to say I'm part of that problem. I thought I understood all of these things, but I even had an education problem because again, I'm Googling something and we know now with AI, and I'm not blaming AI or LLMs or whatever you want to call the systems, but they're pulling data. You still got to verify, right? You got to check and verify. So our part of this now as an organization is really moving into this idea that if veterans are asking us to look at homelessness, we want to go out, we want to look at it, we want to research it, we want to investigate it, we want to understand it from the veterans' perspective and from other nonprofits and VSOs' perspective so that we can put that together appropriately and then provide that to the decision makers the way that they need it, which is unfiltered. We're not changing anything. We're just providing the data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's key, right? In order to amplify veterans' voices, we have to look at those voices in an unbiased, unfiltered way.
That's right.
And that's been the ethos of this organization. And sometimes we've been surprised on a survey or poll of what veterans think. And that's good because we're across the country, right? So different opinions and different aspects. But this is a serious scourge that we have. And I use that word not lightly. It is a scourge, homelessness, and how much that impacts so many things, right? Your self-worth, your financial capabilities, your health. And it's a slippery slope to then suicide. So this is a significant problem. And we don't understand the numbers and the scope of this problem as of yet. I think what we're putting together, what you can see on our website now,
just scratching the surface.
Is scratching the surface. It's the beginning of this. I would ask everybody to read it. It's probably a 10-minute read. Think about it. Share it with people. Share it with your elected officials. Share it with your VSOs. Share it with your family and friends. I think it's important that we have an understanding. We can talk about this together.
Because it's going to start at the community level, right? No matter what we talk about, and everybody, I apologize. If you see me looking over here, it's because I'm reading the comments that are coming in. So I know the staff is taking me off scene on purpose because they think I'm reading an email from Jim, but I promise I'm not. So thank you, team. But I want to hit a couple people here, Jim, that have already wrote. John wrote back and just said, hey, it's me. It sounds strange. Numbers look good to certain organizations or whatever organizations may be out there. So they may actually beef up the number. And I want to answer this and I kick it over to you, Jim. Just my personal opinion on this, John, is that I always go into these situations with a positive outlook that organizations are not intentionally beefing numbers, right? That they're coming in with the numbers that they're finding. And this is what we're finding out now, because I do feel like the majority of the organizations are out, they're searching, they find a number, they may validate it once, but they don't really go to 2 or 3 times. And then this is the number that they utilize, right? And then they never go back and look. Why? Because we all get busy. We got a lot going on, everything else. What we've learned, because we're advocating, right? I think the most important thing we have, and Jim, I think you'll agree, is that when we walk into a room, they go, hey, they have what veterans think, meaning that we're handing a survey or poll. It has nothing to do with me and Jim Mission Roll Call. It's just like, hey, this is what you guys have said. This is an email we've received. This is a social media post. This is a person. This is an actual person here. This is what they're saying. This is something that's different. So I've got to come into this with this idea. So I don't know, Jim, your thoughts on that. Do you feel different with that?
Every indication is from the survey data we're getting, from information we're hearing of all those things I just outlined, of the discrepancies in the reporting, that the number's much higher. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the number's much lower. But I don't think that's the case. We'll find out, but I think that number is going to be much higher than 33,000 veterans, and I think it's seasonal as well. I mean, there's some states do a great job reporting. Some states are awful. Yeah. Some counties do a wonderful job. Some counties don't. Yeah. So I think it's like we said before, if it was an easy problem, somebody would have solved it.
It'd already be solved, yeah.
Right. So it's a complex issue and a lot of politics involved. But I think as a community of veterans, we're behind the fact and the goal. And I've never met a veteran that didn't want some stretch goal, something that sounded impossible. Yeah. That only jazzes them up to want to tackle it. Saying, hey, just do X. Right. But if you say, hey, this is impossible, no one else can do it, then you're going to have veterans lined up to try to do it.
Yeah.
I think when we see this number, we're going to, lock arms and try to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, just to answer your final part of your question here. Thank you so much, first off, for coming in. I love this. This type of interaction is exactly what we want.
Yeah.
One, because we're going to learn from you guys and we're going to pull some of this, and it's something we're not doing. We're going to tell you, and we're going to figure it out. But yes, the way we approached this initially was this mindset of that, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to connect with educators. We're going to connect with the government. We're going to connect with state. We're going to connect with counties. We're going to connect with the lowest level nonprofits that are in the community that are doing this work. Okay. And a lot of them that we found that are doing the work are one or two people organizations that honestly, they're a nonprofit, but they don't even make money. Like they're not, you know what I mean? Like they're not out fundraising and stuff. There's somebody that's retired or somebody that just wants to help veterans with homelessness, and they're out doing it. And you'll see on the page that we have a lot of that data there. We have a white paper that's going to be coming after this that has more data than I know. It's going through the process right now of getting created, and Jim will look at it and we'll get that stuff out to everybody. But the goal of this really is just to provide and allow the person that reads this, and think about it. For me, it's pretty simple. If legislation and bills are 400 pages, this thing's only going to be 20 or 30, right? But it's really good concrete data. Our government's going to read it. And they're gonna take each one of the things that we're talking about. But we want individual veterans, we want individual community care, homeless coordinators down at the lowest level, all of these folks giving us data. And part of it is for them to understand. And I don't want to give away the final piece here, but as we look at the page, there's some interesting data that's on the page that we'd love y'all's feedback. So Nate, I would love if you guys could go ahead and pull up the page for us. That way we can actually look at it for homelessness, so we can see what it looks like. Put that big screen if you don't mind. Juan came here to ask, what is Mission Roll Call doing to combat veteran homelessness? This is great, Juan. We're talking about it right now. We're talking about our piece of it, what we can do as far as our level is concerned. Peter wrote in the bottom, Jim, why can't our government reallocate funding wasted on supporting other countries to our vets? That's a good question as well. We'll get into this a little bit here, Jim, because there's some money outlays here. You hit on this a little bit. Let's talk to 33,000. So we got a big header here, right? 33,000 homelessness veterans.
Yeah.
What does that really mean to you when I say that to you?
Well, first you see it and you're just shocked, right? Yeah. That number is, and then when you dive into it, you find out it's even higher, right? Or every indication is that it's higher. Well, that means that we're not connecting with 33,000, I'd say, families. So it's just not.
You can stop there, Nate. Yeah,
right? So it's just not. I think it's important for people to realize it's just not the veteran that's homeless that's impacted on this.
That's right.
It's their brothers, their sisters, their children, their moms and dads, all of those things that are affecting the community that's being impacted by this. And impacted is not the strongest word. I mean, it's much more than just impacted, right? I mean, that affects your life. Yeah. Some of us know people that have gone through this struggle. Some of us do not. Some of us, I think, have a hard time understanding how could that possibly happen.
That's right.
But the more you dive into it, you realize it easily can happen. And to the point of how do we get resources behind this, I think this is exactly the way we can, as a community of veterans, through what we're doing at Mission Roll Call, is to bring awareness to this and bring accurate facts to it as much as we possibly can, through surveys, through polling, through the analytics that we have, working with other organizations to bring this, put together a white paper, a study, so that we can share that with elected officials as well as other organizations so they can talk about it as well. The only way we get resources behind it is to get the right people to read this, to see it.
That's right. That's right.
To understand the impacts of the problem. I mean, one thing I want to think about is what is the impact of 33,000 veterans and their families not having a job, right? And being homeless. What is the impact on them, on society, on our healthcare system, on suicide numbers, on any number of different, so showing the impact of what that means for our country. Not to mention what that has an impact of us just mentally, right? Those,
yeah,
and socially, and what does this have an impact on recruitment and the next group? I mean, what can we learn from today's issues to make sure that this number doesn't continue? I mean, I don't want to be talking about this issue 5 years from now, right? I mean, think about that. I mean, because this is a multiplying effect. It's a compounding issue of pain and suffering and disillusionment of all these folks that are homeless. I mean, we want to solve this problem quick, and we need to have a sense of urgency as a country on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, but to me, like, and you're right, Jet, like all of that. I'm going to go back to your last statement, because I think this is probably the resounding part of this, is that like this has been a consistent issues for a very long time. Right? Like that, it's not changing. So I remember an old squad leader of mine, you know, he was a sweet guy, by the way, very, very, very nice. I was an infantry guy, you know, lots of hugs, you know, in the infantry, that's what we do. You know, nobody's ever mean to you.
Right.
But one of the things that I remember from him was this idea: if something's broke, fix it. Right? You see a piece of trash on the ground, you go, you grab the piece of trash, you pick it up. Well, here's the thing. The part to me that's frustrating, people could see I'm probably very passionate. We all are, right? Our team is just like me. Like I'm not a catalyst alone here. We all are passionate about what we're doing. At the end of the day, we're just trying to find a process. And if what we've been doing is not working, what we're trying to figure out now is what data can we provide to you?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Help you fix it. And I think that goes back to the question that Juan was asking, like, hey, what are we doing? Well, Juan, we're doing something different than what everybody else is doing, right? We looked at the field, we figured out where the gaps were, and the gap is information. If we don't know how many veterans, because that's the meaning. Nate, can you pull back up the webpage? You can leave that up, man. So just go to the very top. And you said this earlier, Jim, and it's what punched me in the stomach out of this whole thing. If 33,000 is only, it's the floor, right? We don't know what the ceiling is. We only know that there's at least 33,000. That immediately blows my mind. So how can you fix a problem? That's like being at war and somebody going, hey, the enemy is over there somewhere.
But we don't know how many.
What? Yeah, they could be like, we don't know how many. We don't, like, they're somewhere.
Right.
You're going to have to figure it out. You can't fix a problem like that. So I think as we went into this, the idea is like, hey, we may not have all the information, but we are finding groups of people, usually at the community level, that have more information. And then we can kind of pull those folks in. The next thing I wanted to get to with you, Jim, is Nate, go ahead and scroll down. You go ahead and go down there to the budget allocation. You'll see a little graph that's going to be coming up here. It's the next little graph right here. So stop right there. So that graph, Jim, here is kind of the idea of the total number of homeless veterans versus the budgetary allocations. So another question, you know, for us, man, we're doing a holistic view here. We're not, and again, we're not trying to point fingers. We're just giving facts. So the facts, as you see here, you know, around 2012, you know, you can see we had over 60,000. So there's work that's been done. Interesting part though, 2016, you see kind of a flat line as it goes across, but you see the budget continues to go up, right? So we're about 3.4 billion right now. I know there was additional funding that was asked for. That's not our responsibility for that portion, but there is a piece of this. We want to make sure the money is going in the right places. And Jim, I'd love for you to talk about how we're doing that through the polls and the surveys and the communication through veterans and other nonprofits, to be frank.
Well, I think it's educating a whole bunch of people, and this brings in the question of effectiveness, right? So if I'm running the homelessness part of the VA, I'm looking at these numbers going, something's not working, right? We're putting more money into it, less, our effectiveness is not as good. So what are we going to do to adjust on that? And so I think education is a powerful tool. and adding sun is a great disinfectant of things, right? I mean, it just
right.
brings light to it, and it helps veterans be able to understand the issues, and they can share that with their friends and family, and they can share it with elected officials and any number of things and post about it. I mean, they can take this information and post it on their LinkedIn or Facebook accounts and share that information. I almost think when we go back to the top of the page, we should put a question mark. I know my team's going to hate me for that.
No, it's okay.
Idea, but
yeah.
So 33,000 homeless veterans, question mark?
A big question mark on the side of it that
Right.
covers.
Is that really the number? Because we're saying it isn't, or we don't know the number, but every indications are the number's much higher than.
We know the number minimum. Like we know for a fact there's at least 33,000. But what you learn very quickly is, oh boy, there's way more, right? Because even the data even says that there's more, right? So like we talked to HUD and that, it's higher than that. I think the last report was 37,000. Somebody will, please don't hold me to that, but it was definitely, if I remember you talking and what we had got internally was like 37,000. That's where this whole thing kind of popped up.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something there that should be. Jim, so the next part I'd love to talk to you about is like you hit on it a little bit, but was this, and Nate, you can scroll down to data gaps in invisible populations. You had talked in the point in time going out, trying to find the veterans, like all of that type of stuff. This is an interesting quandary, and I don't know how to say this appropriately without probably saying something.
Say it inappropriately.
This is a personal opinion, and it's just like a thought process here. Oftentimes, as I look at this and I think about this data gap in visible populations, to me it seems kind of like, hey man, the government can only do so much, right? There seems to be a community portion of this that really has to help to get us to where we have better data at the local level. Because if you don't do that, then the government just keeps getting bigger and bigger, right? Like, so from a community perspective, it would seem that these gaps in the visible populations that are impacted, that there's something that we could do there locally. And I'm just interested to get your thoughts on that, or maybe things that you've heard or seen.
Well, first I'd like to point out that I said time and point, not point in time. So there's my dyslexia coming out early on. So I just saw that. What did I say? Like we said, it's a complex issue, but I think, and when you look at these other things like hidden in remote and rural areas, temporarily staying, there's all these things baked into these numbers that kind of make it difficult to find what the true answer is. We know that there's some small nonprofits that are making huge impacts in the areas that they're at. And then there's other organizations that seem to have a lot of funds that are just scratching the surface. To your point, I think if we don't fix this problem and we assume someone in DC is going to fix the problem, that would be a false narrative. That is not going to happen. It's never happened. It will not happen. So we have to actually be the squeaky wheel. So I think it's a couple things. One, what we're doing, we think our role is to amplify the voices of veterans. So we're doing that. And we're doing that through things like engaging the media. I've not turned down one media request. Even if I know it's going to be a little hostile, I'll do it because I want to share the information with people that are covering these stories. We do podcasts with people that have been affected by homelessness. We do podcasts with organizations that are addressing this issue to make sure people are aware of it. We talk about things on our mission role called University, MRC University, that hopefully helps you and helps those not to get into that situation through financial literacy and how to transition, all of those sort of things. We have a website that I think is really becoming the hub for not only finding information, but finding your path. Coming in here and looking at other organizations, VSOs, that you could be part of, other veteran support organizations that you could volunteer for. So when we start connecting the dots of you come to our website and you want to volunteer, you want to help, we're going to be able to help you do that through our resource directory so you can find an organization to volunteer for or donate to, or get involved with, and so or point a friend in that direction that may need a specific issue addressed. I think all of those things are important, but these were one time the people that were the left and right of us. Maybe we don't know somebody right now that's homeless, but how do you know you don't know somebody who's homeless?
That's right.
Right? I mean, that's an unknown known. So you have to assume that with all the connections we have in life, somebody we know knows somebody who's homeless. And wouldn't we want to help that person? So I think we have to not only tell the story to elected officials, that's what Mission Roll Call is doing. We as a community need to get involved, and that's through organizations like ourselves volunteering for, or other veteran support organizations are getting involved with. And then 3, you got to make sure your voice is heard. You got to make sure you take polls. You're taking this information and talking to your local town. I mean, there's probably somebody within 20 miles of where you live, no matter where you live, that's homeless.
Well, I mean, how many times do you get on the road, start driving? And I didn't every day. I probably go, not every day, but quite often I'll go drive, even here in North Carolina, and see somebody walking along the freeway or along the road, and they're not in a city. I live outside of a city, like a ways away. So if I'm seeing it, I know for a fact, somebody else seeing it. I would love, maybe Roger, if you guys can put up the link for folks. Again, selfless plug. We need you guys to go take the survey. So everybody that's listening, please do that. John, you've got a lot of really interesting post here, man. I would love to talk to you separately to this conversation. We're going to hit on some of these here in a minute, but I would love to talk to you about some of the stuff that you have here, some interesting thoughts. And then I see Derek just came in, said 33,000 homeless veterans have cash to fund other countries. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, what we looked at the civilian population homelessness versus the veteran to see if there was a discrepancy. And what we learned is about $100,000 is what we spend for a homeless person, whether it doesn't matter who they are, right? It doesn't matter if they're veteran, non-veteran, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So again, this is why we think the number is bigger, because right now, 3.4 billion, we're asking for more money, or they are, the government. So there is something to be said there. And Bill, we'll hit your question in a second. Nate, can you pull up that quote real quick for me? So I love this quote right here, Jim. If you're not seen, you're not counted. And if you're not counted, you're not helped. And how powerful of, it's kind of one of the things I asked the team. It's just like, hey, if you could take, if you did a whiteboard or info board and just wrote down things that you're like this was one of them, right? That just came out. Like, holy crap, if you're not seeing, you can't do it. Nate, go ahead and go down to homeless veterans. Jim, we'll go over the map. We're cruising through this thing pretty good. So I'm going to usher us along as fast. That makes sense. So if you could just kind of talk about the map, I want to go into this with understanding. We're not pointing out states to try to, again, this is information sharing, right? I think the majority of us know that the ones darker green have more veterans that are homeless versus the ones that are lighter green, right? So you can see, most of the veteran friendly states or where the climate is good have the majority. So I'd love for you to just kind of talk about this. And then of course the table underneath it, Jim.
Yeah. So if we think about, and this is, I don't think it's surprising to anyone that says these states here are the states that have the most veterans. So it would make sense that that's also the states that have the most homelessness. And I think this is where we have to attack the problem, right? I mean, if we're going to phase out the attack of this problem, then the first phase would be, how do we make some dent in those states that have the most homelessness and go after that and work with organizations. So if you're from one of those states, this information could be very impactful for you because you can share it with your local veteran support organizations in your town or city. You can share it with your representative in Congress and say, well, what do you think about this? And what is the numbers here? I would urge people to find out what's going on in their own county.
That's right.
Right where you live. I mean, the only way we fix this problem is that we go after it as a community. And the reason I keep harping on that is because when you look at our community of 18 million veterans, half of those are not associated with the VA, so their numbers aren't really counted, and so their voices aren't being heard. And if we can get to all of those folks, or at least a big majority of it, that's a sizable voting block. That is a significant group of people that have resources, that have the capability to having their voices heard, and they have a common background. They've all served their country. And so I've never met anybody who's not concerned as a veteran to this issue. Yeah. Everybody I've talked to is concerned about this issue. So
well, and the other thing, Jim, I want to jump on that part of the local part, is that a lot of what we've learned is that it may be some government-based bills legislation, but a lot of what we learned is at the city, county, and state level laws and rules is what's governing some of this as well. So that's another reason I love that you keep talking about community and veterans need to get involved, because I mean, again, this is a much broader conversation with a lot more people that are involved. So getting involved in your community gets you involved with the problem at the local level and allows you to, have a little bit more, because every state's different, right? Every city's different. So on and so on.
Yeah. And I would say it may not seem fair to people on this call, but all of veterans out there serve their country in some way, shape, or form. 4 years, 40 years, different locations, different services. But guess what? You still expected to serve.
Yeah.
So this is one way to do that. And, I think if everybody would be able to tell their friends, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to tackle this homelessness problem. I'm working with the local VSO to figure it out. All right. That's a noble calling.
Yeah.
That's important. And I have no doubt if we all work together, we could significantly reduce this problem. We could get rid of this problem. That's the goal, right? The goal is to go to zero, not to get it down to double-digit numbers. We want to finish this and put it away. But I think that it requires us to be, one, educated about it and be able to talk about it and have facts behind it, not hyperbole, have accurate numbers. So it brings legitimacy to the issue so that you're able to share it with congressmen. And I'll tell you, when we bring this information to the people that are supposed to know, they don't know.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, how could they, right? Like, I mean, think about my daily thing. How many times has the wife asked me something and I'm like, I'm supposed to know that, but like, I've got so many other things going on in my life and just in general. So, you know what I mean? So, I mean, we're human. That's the best part about us, is that you can't think everybody's going to have it. So if we can create these educational based, white papers and pages that local nonprofits and veterans and other folks can use, like, that's the goal. Because right now, where do you go to get it? You can't, because everybody's got different data, right?
Yeah, and that's what separates us, from any other organization. When we walk into a local state government, and we need help to grow in the state area, we just don't have the bandwidth to that. We've been focused at the federal level. But think about anyone who's listening. If they had this information and they go to their local congressman and share this information, what an impact it has, because the impact it has is, it's not your opinion. It's not my opinion. We're not going in there to say, this is what I think. This is what the facts are. That's and this is what the veteran community feels. And oh, by the way, we know how many veterans are in your community. That's right. It's welcome news, actually, even when the news is bad, to elected officials, because they get a lot of opinions, but not a whole lot of facts.
That's right.
And I've been in those congressman offices, and when you ask a question, the staffers are Googling the answer. Well, I use Google too, but it's no way to run a government.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you need accurate information, and that's not the best way sometimes to getting information that's detailed such as this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, I know we're already, like, we went 50 minutes, Jim, like we were all in. I mean, because this is an important subject. There's a little bit more on this page. Roger, Nate, whoever, Megan, if you guys can throw this out on our social media, go ahead and send people to the page. Listen, we would ask you, for those that are watching, one, if you got a question, post it up. But two, more importantly, go to the page, read it.
Yeah.
Got feedback, you can go to contact us. You can send an email to us. Happy to do anything to connect with you, to talk about it. This is again, Jim talked about this earlier, which I think is important, is we scratched it. We kept scratching, more and more is getting unraveled. Now we're trying to figure out, like, how do we do best for veterans, for other nonprofits, and of course for those that are decision makers, to make sure they have the right data and not like all data, right? So I think we've got to figure this accordion. And I know, Jim, I know the exciting part for you is it's not just homelessness. We're doing access to care right now. So we had this great conversation. Thank you for the veteran. I'm not going to say who this was, by the way, but I was talking about, like, hey man, what are you talking about? Appointments only take, I don't know, the average is like 30 days for appointments. And the veteran just like looked at me in the face, like, hey man, check it out, dude. Yeah, you're right. 30 days for that initial appointment. So that's like an average, right? The real problem is like the specialty based appointments. Right. So that opened up a whole nother can of worms. And we expect that to be done probably to end of Q3. So that'll be the next one we're going to talk about. Then after that, we're going to be moving very heavily into suicide prevention. And then of course, working with AWP, I hope, on kind of what they've done from a research perspective. And then how do we utilize that to better inform, right? Like, let's get the facts, let's figure out the issues to do there. But on the homelessness side, there's a lot of wealth of data here for folks that are still here. You know, women veteran on here, indigenous veterans that are disproportionately affected. You know, for women veterans, Jim, you talked about having kids, and then like there's a whole nother problem there. But the good news is there are locations that are trying to help. And then there are states that are kind of interesting. That seems to be like lessening, like Arizona. There seems to be a really interesting, I don't know what they're doing locally. It's not really for us. We're still doing a little bit of looking at it, but they've had the biggest decrease in this. So I think we're going to continue to do that. And I think it's going to be continuing to talk to the veterans, and then working through the Santa Barbara VA, their community partners. Yvette Jones, you and I had a great call
just
with her.
Wonderful.
Holy moly. I mean, she is like, listen, if you guys don't know Yvette, you guys should go follow her on LinkedIn. I hope we have her. I believe we do. I think we got our mentors organization on our resource database. You should go. She's doing amazing work, and she's like a one-woman.
If you had 50 events, one in every state, this problem goes away.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the work she's doing. Unbelievable. Mighty Hero Homes, we all know Georgia, so we love him. And then, of course, Boulder Crest, that we're close in partnership with. So I'm looking forward to how things kind of pan out. Anything else on the homelessness side, Jim, that you can think of, or anybody that's watching have any questions, please post them up.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is, take this information, help cascade this information, just like we amplify. I have a dog amplifying his voice right now.
Dog, great man.
He's you amplify, if you can help us amplify this message, the better off we are. And sharing it at every level, I think, is really important. And we'll continue to give that information. If you're listening and you're watching this, you're already an ambassador for us. You're already showing that you care. So I would just ask you to share it with others, and let's try to solve this together.
Yeah. Jerry asked a great question. So we got to pin that. This is for everybody that's watching. How could you help right now? Number one, go take the survey. Every month, beginning of the month, we put a survey up. So we're only asking you to come back once a month. I'd like you to come back more, because there's a lot of information that we have. And this information is for you. Okay, we're not asking you to become members. We're not like none of that stuff. I mean, we want you to, obviously, but that's not that the end state is that you're learning about nonprofits that are supporting veterans in a local community, and then everything we're doing. So the very first thing is go take the survey every month. Your voice needs to be heard. And Ray Whitaker, Jim Whaley, and the rest of our amazing team cannot be your voice, right? You have to be your individual voice. Just like I have a voice as a veteran, Jim has a voice, Valerie, and the rest of our team. So that's number one, do that. Number two, if you're in a local community and you're serving inside of a nonprofit, or if you know a nonprofit in your community that is out crushing it for veterans, you need to reach out and contact us. And I'm gonna do something you're not supposed to do, but I'm gonna do it anyway. With email, you can info@missionrollcall.org. Somebody can post it up. info@missionrollcall.org. That email will come into us. Okay, it's the same place we do if you went to our contacts form, but I'm gonna make it easy for you. info@missionrollcall.org. Send us an email. Tell us who they are. We'd be happy to go out talk to them and get them to understand what we're trying to do. Okay. We believe a long time ago, Jim and I both said this, we cannot do this alone. We need everybody to be involved with this. I mean, it's all nonprofits. We're not competing with other people. This organization will last as long as it needs to make sure that we're doing the work that we do. And that's what Jim Whaley and the board have, talked to all of us. So, and I'm hoping, Jim, I don't know about you, but I'm getting some grays, man. I thought I was young still.
No, I'm still good.
Yeah. Not you, obviously, but so anyway, so that's the other way you can help. And then the final way for those that really want to support the mission, look, we want to be doing more. We want to be doing more faster. Donate, right? We're a 501c3. We're putting money back into the programs and all the research and all the things that we're doing so we can educate, we can inform, we can connect, and we can empower. That's our leading charge. And consider it. Donate a couple dollars a month. Do your part, but more importantly, just take the surveys. And that includes your family. So make sure it's not just you, it's your family. And if you're a civilian supporter and you're like, well, I'm not a veteran, we need your voice too. There's lots of questions that are on there that are based on that. So as always, Jim, thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait until next month. I know we got some juicy ones for next month. For everybody that's here today, thank you for the team that put this together. Thank you as always. For those, if you think we should be doing this more, just let us know. Jim and I both think that we should be doing this daily. That way Nate's, got lots of work to do.
We'll make sure Nate's working hard.
Yeah, we're not going to do this daily. But if you think we should be doing this more, please let us know. As always, thank you for your service to your country, whether you're a veteran or the family. And if you're a family, thank you so much for letting us borrow your loved one to protect the freedoms that we enjoy. We will, don't forget, September 11th is coming at the beginning of next month. So for everybody that's out there, we all lived through it. Jim, I know you did as well. So for everybody that's out there, that'll be a really important time for us as an organization. And then towards the end of the month, we'll see everybody. So we'll see everybody. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate you as always.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, everybody. See you later.